Good morning, everybody. This is Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong. I haven't done one of these in a long time. I have this cover from a series that I did almost a year ago, or some kits, I should say. And I did have a couple of kits left over that I just pulled from the shop at the time. And I've been wanting to finish these for a long time. I've done a lot of different things since then. But last night it was just very therapeutic to pull this out and finish it. And I just love the way it turned out. Oh, that reminds me. I want to show you, this is my own personal Boho Birds journal. And several people have these. They are really fun journals. This is, all I do is record the birds in the yard in this. And like if we were to see birds traveling or something like that. It truly is a bird journal. I added a couple of things to mine recently. This beautiful charm that was sent to me, I love this, you know who you are. And I've got to get a picture in here. I'm not sure what I want to put in there. I think it might need to be a picture of a bird. But I've just added pictures of like the crows that come to the yard and special things. Every so often I will put a little note in. I added a note yesterday. Today I watched from the driveway as several juvenile hawks soared and played and screamed at each other right over our house. There were 3 or 4 of them. One flew really close. I tried to get some footage of that, but they never did. They never did come back down and land really close as they were doing before, and it was just exciting. There were 3 or 4 of them, probably 4, maybe even more, because I could hear them and they were out playing and going from treetop to treetop. One came really close and landed right above me and looked down at me. So let's look at this Boho Birds journal. It's tied with a piece of this says viscose silk. So it's not, I don't think that's real silk, but I love the design in that. And you can see there's a lot of fraying going on. Feel free to use a different tie for that if you want to. And maybe I will include something extra that you can make a choice between the two. So the cover, I just stitched a bird on the front, and you can see the zigzag stitch. I had added a little bit of acrylic paint to the wings and just to some different spots to brighten it up. It was a beautiful piece of fabric, but I felt like it needed just a little bit of brightening. And we had the strawberry fabric in the background, and then I just stamped birds on a piece of muslin. Then this fabric made a nest, and there's trim on the outside and my fabric stamp on the back. So just going through this, there are birds everywhere. This is, I love the little hummingbirds and that tiny little nest. That is a card from a set that I have in my shop. It's called Let's Go Birding, and that's just a vintage image that I had in my collection. There's a key that's here with a safety pin, as if to be a house key, because everyone's gone out on a bird watching adventure. There's a page from Wild Swans at Cool, one of my favorite writers. And this is a vintage calendar with the bright birds. I love this writing on the back, the print. Here's just a little card of a robin. And that is tucked into a pocket that was cut from the same digital set, Let's Go Birding. I just love for these journals to be full of color and images of birds, places to write. That's just a very simple template that I made up for my computer so that I could print that out for the bird journals. This is a neat little piece cut from a book. It shows different talons and feet of different birds. And there's some wildflowers, just different trim throughout. There's some pretty wallpaper and some fabric to make a pocket. There's one of the postcards with the peacock on it. That's really pretty. And then this is just a layered tag. Again, there's the key theme, and we have a bird from an old calendar, 1971. Just images of water birds. I love that. That's an old calendar card. I think it was from 2013 from worldwildlife.org. So there's a lot of places for you to write. I just sewed along the edge so you can flip this back and see both sides. I wanted both sides to be visible. Oh, and look at, you can almost not even see this owl that's kind of muted, and it's on that pretty wallpaper. There's a little flip spot. This beautiful botanical themed paper came from Nick the Booksmith. She had just a beautiful batch of eco-dyed papers that she scanned, and you can buy those in her shop. I have really enjoyed having those. This is one of my favorite little spots. These two pieces of paper are vintage, and they came from different hotels, the Chicago Hilton and the Palmer House. So I was thinking, people who really get into bird watching, they travel around, and I can just imagine someone taking a couple of sheets of hotel stationery so that they could write some things down. This beautiful trim, Ava, I think this also came from you. So thank you so much. You've sent me some beautiful things, and others as well. I appreciate everything. I have some things on my desk right now that were sent to me, and I will show you some of those things. Just pull them in when it's appropriate, because they're beautiful things, and appreciate it so much. I never expected to get anything, but I love that we can have that back and forth, the giving. I like to send things when I can as well. There's part of a vintage piece of music called the Robin, and more of that pretty paper. There's a stamp. Just lots of color, lots of book pages and trim. I love these old illustrations. That is just so gorgeous. And I meant to put this in. Where did it go? So here's the card that matches that, the red-winged blackbird. So I think we probably should put this card right in here. Make sure I'm not gonna, let's get a smaller paper clip. I really love the metal paper clips. I find a lot of old things at work, and one of the neatest things is to find a piece of paper with writing or typing and have that rusty paper clip mark on the edge. That little charm, I believe, came from Magnolia Seed. Fatima, I love this. Really pretty. And these are rub-on transfers. There are some of those throughout. In fact, I've probably missed, I may have missed one or two, but I love rub-on transfers. If you can find them that are really colorful and that work nicely, they're fun to use. So a lot of space for you to write, but a lot of pretty images. Oh, I love that bird. And then that, look at the color in that. And that's a pretty old book page. And then this is really neat. This very sheer paper, tracing paper. This was in an envelope of ephemera. It was old patterns and notes about sewing. And this was someone's personal note to themselves about the design for the quilt they were doing. It was a bird quilt, so it's talking about blocks. There were some other pages where the person had jotted down information about the birds. So and here's just a flower petal put on a paper clip. Of course, this is from Edith Holden's Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. One of the most beautiful books. We used to use that homeschooling. I love this page. I just sewed around this image of another brightly colored bird, and then I sewed on a couple of pieces of faux, whichever you want to call it, moss and some little pieces of grass. There's a charm that's a dragonfly, and just more beautiful birds. There's the Canada goose, and you know, that makes me think about you, Jennifer. So there's a stamp there. Beautiful bird. Lots of pretty images. I love this page. That came from a poster that showed all different kinds of feathers. And I love this. This was scanned from an older book of birds, and just all those bird cages, they look so antique. Just what a beautiful collection. More images, more places to write. And then we come to the center with just this beautiful color illustration. And on one of these strings there's a mushroom and an amber colored bead, and on the other one we have a glass bead that's got the rose on it, and then another kind of iridescent bead and a stamp, some fabric. So I don't know if anyone remembers these tags. I did these a while back, and I used the old bobbin covers to design some cards. So there is one of those cards. Be careful putting that in. I don't want to make the button come off. And then there are just some different eagles there. I did put a drop of alcohol ink here, and look at the color. You know, I don't want to be too graphic, but what it made me think about was when the songbirds would come to my old garden, and I had a huge pokeberry bush that I let grow, and I kept it trimmed, but it grew up over the side of an arbor, and the mockingbirds especially loved that bush. They would just hide in that and sing. On the other side of that arbor was a very large ladybank's rose, and it just, you know how massive they can get. But because of the different berries that I let grow, not just that, but there were other things as well. We had a huge mulberry tree that had berries. I found a lot of spots like this on my sidewalk and my walkways through the garden, and that's all I will say about that. I do love that alcohol ink though, the way it runs, and we'll be working with that. It dries really, really quickly, and there are a couple more dots right there. I just love the color. More stamps and images, and there's a charm that I made just with some little beads. The top and bottom look iridescent, and then we've got the peacock feather, part of that. Just sweet little cards that says Sweetest Day. That looks like a quail or a partridge, I guess. And there's some information about the Canada goose, the great blue heron, and there is a little vintage playing card. And this is one of the things I did to experiment. I just put some alcohol ink in a little tray, and I dropped my paper clip in there and then put it immediately onto the page to give sort of a rusty effect. And I love the way that turned out. We're going to do some more of that with our journal with me. So more pretty pages. I hope this journal goes to someone. Oh, look at this. So this is where she wrote, red-headed woodpecker, 9 to 10 inches long. Graph paper is 5 squares. 10-inch bird is 50 squares. Paper, I mean, this is just half of it, but there was a lot of planning in that. I was so impressed when I found that envelope of ephemera, the images that she had cut out, and wouldn't you love to see the actual quilt that she made? I love this page. I did reinforce some of the pages with washi tape, and you can see that in here. That's just a beautiful effect, though, with the color in that page. And then we have another piece of pretty fabric ribbon with a stamp, and there's kind of a large charm. That's an upholstery charm. And look at that snake in the water. That kind of makes me shiver. I'm not exceptionally afraid of snakes. I've always been kind of fascinated with them, actually, but that one, when you see one swimming on the top of the water, it is sort of a chilling sight. And snakes can be bird charmers. I remember reading that when I was really young, and I was at my grandmother's house. I was about 10, I guess, and she lived in the country, and out by her clothesline, I kept seeing this group of birds diving towards the ground over and over again, and I just started thinking about what I had read. I read all the time, and I love to read, and I'm grateful for that, and that I had books. But I decided to get up and go outside, and sure enough, underneath the clothesline in the grass was a snake. And I suppose that the birds had a nest nearby, and they were trying to scare the snake away. I have read, though, that snakes can be bird charmers. So more pages, a little bit of staining on this page. It's hard not to go completely wild with these journals and just embellish them to pieces, but I feel like I need to leave some room for you to add your bird notes, your garden notes. So there's just another little card with a rooster. There's one of my Birdsong tags that I designed and print out. More pretty pages. And, you know, there's information on these pages because they came out of bird books. More of Nick's beautiful paper. And that's some very light, delicate wallpaper with the birds. That's from a children's Learn to Count book. More wallpaper. And another one of the pages that flips out. And here we are at kind of near the end. So that's a pretty little card. I love that. The snowy owl. And then this is also in one of my digital kits. The French cards. And we have the owl and the cockatoo. Isn't that pretty fabric? Getting closer to the end here. That's pretty, and I love the trim on that. And then there's another pocket with more birds of prey. There's some vultures, and there's another pocket from one of the cards in the digital kit. There's another one of the rub-on transfers. I know we missed some. You'll find them, I'm sure, as you go through the journal. It seemed to me that I put about 4 in here. At any rate, there's the back of that calendar page. And then we have this really fun clip. It says Esterbrook, and it's a number 10 clip. I'm going to have to see if I can find some of those. There's a large card that's also from the digital kit. They look like they're about to go out birding. And then there's a crow in a boat. You know how I love my crows. And there's a postcard of some quails. Yeah, look at that little feather on the top. So that was a little quail illustration that we saw earlier. And just love the bright colors. And let me get this clip put back on. And I also wanted to put this owl card in. Let's find a place to tuck this in. Maybe right there. That will do. This is going into the shop right now. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate everyone's support, more than I can say. Bye for now.